always scares me.
I know. Which cloud? No, as long as it's not on my computer, we're good. All right. Well, I don't want to end up closing this because I don't want to miss Tawana. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, thank you.
All right. Well, I think Tawana will be on. She's already been through one of these, so she's already a pro. Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. My name's Becca Stordahl, and I'm from Nominating. And we also have Michelle Lehan here from Nominating. Hi, Michelle. And then I'll introduce the rest of you soon. But Elizabeth, would you mind introducing yourself to us and tell us a little something about you? Sorry, on the spot.
Sure. Thank you. I'm a provisional member, and I'm in the Ballard area. I'm still looking forward to just learning more about Junior League.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. So since you are newer to us being a provisional, this is a kind of a reinvention of something that we used to do that was called a leadership information session. And we felt like we could do it better than we used to. So that's why we are all here on this forum. So you have joined for tonight the Membership Wing Leadership Forum. So thank you for that. And I would love to see, sorry, Sarah, I should have asked you about this beforehand, but would you mind giving us a little bit of just kind of an overview of what maybe the whole wing is about?
Sure. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know Michelle wasn't gonna be here, but I will.
Surprise! Well, you can at least give me your part if that's better for you.
I'll do the whole thing. So the membership wing comprises several committees, but when we think about it, there's actually two managers here. So the membership manager oversees all of the non-training and advocacy committees, and then the training manager, myself, oversees the training and advocacy, which currently is one committee. So it's one of our larger committees combined together. And so we have a chair, vice chair, and then a manager for that section of the wing. And then under the membership side, that's where we have our provisional chair, our member connections chair, and then all of our provisional active advisors, as well as like the membership wing and role itself, which I believe we just placed a chair, but they are not quite up to speed yet. So I think that's a total of 4 committees that make up the membership wing.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And then I just kind of want to call out who's on the call here tonight. Okay, so let's see. Oh, first off, I'll tell you also that the agenda for tonight is just very simple. So we're going to introduce everybody, and then we're going to go through a series of predetermined questions, and we'll answer all of those. And then Elizabeth, if you have any questions along the way, you're welcome to put them in the chat. You could say them out loud since we're a smaller group, whatever suits you. And then there'll also be time when we finish at the end if anything should come up. So let's introduce our amazing panelists. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so where are we? Let me introduce our membership wing committees. So we've got our provisional, excuse me, I'm going to let Tawana in. We have our provisional chair, Knock, and well, we don't have our vice chair here tonight. Okay, we have provisional advisor, Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. We also have our training advocacy chair, Ariana, here, and then member connections chair, Lisa Moffett, and then training manager, Sarah Casey. Did I miss any of you? No? All right, great. Welcome. Thank you, everyone. Tawana, welcome. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Sorry for the change in address. Thank you for dealing with us. You're going to be a pro at this along with all of us.
Okay.
This is both of our second one. We're the only 2, so far that have had 2 of these. So welcome again. Okay, so let's get our program started. So basically, as I was talking to the chairs earlier, if you guys will each answer these questions in whichever order feels comfortable, just maybe raise your hand, or you could just start talking, whatever feels good. So what is your committee working on this year? We could go in this, actually, let's do this. Let's go in the same order each time. So Nak, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, Elizabeth and Tawana and panelists. Thank you for having me. I am the provisional chair, and um, I just do all things provisional and onboarding our fabulous class of 36 folks, just to get them acquainted with the Junior League. Our monthly small group meetings talk about a lot about just the structure of the league, the org chart with the committees and what each kind of committee does and how they interface with the other committees. So each provisional is assigned to a provisional project that they work on in the year, that they will take kind of the things that they learn in their small groups and in their interactions, whether they're doing their other obligations, their trainings, their service shifts and whatnot. And really taking those skills and having hands-on experience in planning an event, the Junior League of Seattle way. And so there's procurement elements, marketing elements, and admin contract and such. So the provisionals are working on, just the small groups where they're meeting with their kind of neighborhood group just to get to know each other. One of the great things about Junior League is the social connection along with the civic engagement, the training part, and getting to know your community. So yeah, I think that's kind of the big things that we're working on with the provisional class right now, is just getting everyone's feet wet and comfortable with the Junior League so that they will have a wonderful Junior League career.
So thank you. Okay, Ariana, how about you? What is your committee and what are you working on this year?
Oh, you're stuck on mute.
Oh, that's usually my job to be
So
on mute.
sorry. I may have double muted myself. Sarah, did you want to take this one or do you want me to hop in?
Yeah, maybe I'll kick it off and then you fill in. I
Sounds great.
for context, Elizabeth, and I'm sorry, how do you say, is he T Simon? How do you say your first name?
Tawana. Let me change
Tawana.
that.
I want to make sure I pronounce it. Thank you. I'll kind of just give a high level overview. There's 5 different focus areas that our committee has for our work plan. And then I'm just going to touch on a couple of kind of like the key highlights or events in each of them. And then Ariana kind of fill in with really kind of what the committee is working on and how that plays out. So like I said, 5 focus areas. The first one is we are responsible for educating and training the volunteers, aka all of the members of the Junior League, to be trained volunteers for the community, which is a big part of the Junior League's mission. Within that, a couple of things we own are putting on Skills Month, which you may have attended some events in like the August, September timeframe where we were offering kind of those trainings on things you need to know just to function within the Junior League. We will also have Training Month, which is usually in February. And that is when we'll pick kind of like based on needs and just focus areas that we have going on right now. We'll pick a theme and then have at least 2 trainings every week kind of going along that theme. We'll be introducing that, I think, at the December GMM with a little sneak peek of what we're working on. We also put on training days, which is something that we're bringing back this year. So we're trying to do, I don't think we'll have one for fall, but we're going to do a spring kind of like all day event where you just have to get different training credits, but you'll be able to do a variety of trainings on one topic all in one day. And this one will be partnered with fundraising. So we'll have an exciting event to be able to put on then. We also own the Junior League of Seattle's relationship with the Training Collaborative, which is 26 different leagues across the country that we work together. We're actually kind of the first year of this test idea that's being presented to HALI so that we can work together on different content and speakers and offer it, ideally at a better cost to each league and with more people able to attend in a virtual format. So that's something that we also work on. And then we're also responsible for curriculum development. So kind of making sure that we have the right training content for leaders, for general members, as well as supporting provisionals and what they might need as well. So it's kind of the core focus area of the Training and Advocacy Committee. Our second is to engage and inform our community. And so this is really making sure that we're kind of opening up some of those events and that training content that we put on, so that our public or even community partners can get involved and help to kind of learn about the Junior League of Seattle. So we do some public event offerings. We're going to look to bring the Women with Impact series, and also work with our communications manager on a training about what is the Junior League, to help kind of educate the Seattle community. Our third focus area is to empower and create advocates for the community. So this is really the advocacy committee that is currently sitting within training. And so they're responsible for screen and chats, advocacy trainings to make sure the league kind of knows what advocacy is and how to be a kind of non-biased, nonpartisan advocate in the community. We will build relationships with different advocacy groups and representatives. And then some of our kind of key events are Bubbles and Ballots. And we look to do some stuff around Capitol Day as well. And then our last two kind of, I call them our mini focus areas, are we own documenting and sustaining resources. So building the training library and policies for how to kind of get credit and how to use trainings outside of the Junior League to get educated. And then we also own the partnership with the DE&I director, since there's currently no DE&I committee, to make sure that we have an inclusive event checklist, hybrid event guidelines, and just generally help to make sure that we're sharing the right DE&I information with the rest of the league. I promise that was the short version of our work plan. We have a lot going on. Ariana, anything you want to add? Anything I missed? Any questions on that?
I think Sarah did a really good job of giving that overview. The only other thing I'd add, and I think it's especially relevant this year, is kind of educating our membership on our new impact area. And you'll see that throughout the year, especially kicking off in February for Training Month. We're really going to be diving into that so that people who don't know a lot about Northwest Art and what we're doing for that program and what the impact is, as well as just how to get involved in arts education issues outside of the Junior League, we'll really be getting some good resources around that.
Excellent. Thank you both very much. Lisa, how about you?
Sure. Hi, I'm the chair of Member Connections this year, and basically we're tasked with coming up with kind of like mini events. That sounds kind of strange, but to keep the membership engaged. So this year we've been doing a variety of events, the typical brunches, happy hours. There's been a few of those. There's a book club that is run from this committee that is every other month roughly, just to give everyone enough time to read the books. And then a few members have branched out with some new events that I hadn't seen recently, but we just had someone host a Seahawks watching party at Queen Anne Beer Hall, and about 10 people attended that. So that was super exciting, and they remembered to take a picture. So happy about that. I had one member who really wanted to host a Thanksgiving Day sort of thing for the people that might not have places to go. And so we put it on the calendar to see if we could gauge interest, and sadly no one signed up. So we're thinking maybe next year we could try it again with more advanced time. But really the committee and just in general, I mean, everyone is very enthusiastic and seems to be excited to be a part of the team, and just is always like, sometimes I feel like I have to kind of maybe reel back their ideas. Like, no, that would be a full-on fundraiser. So it's a lot of fun.
Lisa, about how many people do you have in your committee?
I think it's roughly like 12-ish. There were more, and then I think maybe 3 moved away and transferred to other leagues. So
got it. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, guys. This came up a little bit in each one of your responses for the last question, but are there certain events that happen every single league year for each of you? Knock, we can start with you again.
Yeah, so the provisional year, at least for our leadership group, which I didn't mention, provisional leaders are inclusive of myself as the chair. We're supposed to have 2 provisional vice chairs, one kind of focused on the operational things for our committee, monthly reports, calendaring, and putting together slide decks and agendas and things. And that position was not filled this year. So we're kind of spreading it across all of our members or all of the leaders. And then our recruitment vice chair, who just transferred out, she moved to Denver. So we are super bummed. But we're going to work together with the rest of leadership and management to work on recruiting this year. But that's kind of a big piece. And then there are this year with our 36 members, provisional members, we have 4 provisional advisors, and usually the number of provisional advisors depends on how many people there are in the class. We usually like the provisional groups to be about 8 to 12 people, which they are right now. So as far as your question, other kind of calendaring events that we have, the June, July, August are usually around onboarding and planning for the leadership group. And then we start executing those plans with a provisional retreat in August, depending on what the provisional curriculum is. And that's a lot of what the committee works on to kind of lay out the year for the provisional course. This year, we're really excited to do like a December holiday party that will have all of the provisionals in it. We do the provisional projects, like I mentioned in my first answer, in trying to put what folks are learning in their small groups into action. We usually like to have an opportunity in the fall to do a project, and also in the spring. So we did the dessert dash at the gala for the fall project. And in the spring, we'll have 2 projects, which is one around Northwest Art, and then the second project is around Done in a Day, and will be our Mother's Day gift bags, which is an oldie but a goodie, but something that we have done ever since I was a provisional, so even well before that. Then in the spring, we have a May celebration that we do with the sustainers and welcoming our first year actives that they'll be voted in the spring. So that's kind of a look at our year, but just monthly meetings and just the provisionals getting together to learn more about the league and getting to know one another, and just encouraging them to engage in all of the great opportunities that the rest of the committees are putting on.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's great extra info. Hey, Ariana.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned you guys talked about the ballots and bubbles as one, but things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Sarah covered some of them. On the advocacy side, bubbles and ballots is probably like the first year-over-year event. And that is where we bring in the director of elections, who for the last few years has been Julie Weiss. And they come in and talk, or she comes in and talks to us about some of the ways that King County is frankly leading the nation in terms of accessibility and security for our elections. And it's one of those trainings where I think I've seen it 3 times, but I've learned new things every time. So we love hosting that. The other big one on the advocacy side that we've done historically is Capitol Day, which has been kind of a partnership with a couple of other Washington State junior leagues. That's being re-envisioned a little bit this year. So we'll announce some more details in the coming months, but it's going to be more the focus of training month rather than just one specific day. All the elements of Capitol Day, but just spread out a little bit differently to better accommodate meeting with representatives and kind of the needs of our membership. But definitely like that core set of trainings is a really important one that we do. And then on the training side, I think that the 2 that are kind of year over year are Skills Month, which Sarah touched on, and that's in the summer, really aimed at onboarding new leaders and teaching them and new members the skills that they need, how you use Digital Cheetah, how you learn about financial procedures and what you need to know about running the budget, that kind of thing. And then we also own Training Month, which is in February, and the theme for that changes year over year just based on what people are needing or what we feel like might be a good topic. But we plan usually like 2 trainings a month or a week for the entire month around a cohesive kind of topic. And that is a great way to dive into something a little bit deeper. And then we have trainings throughout the year. We have historically at different points done a STAR program, which is like a kind of concentrated small group series of trainings. And we've also done training days in the past, and we'll be kind of doing one more in the March area with fundraising around nonprofit leadership.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. And Lisa, I'm not sure if you have any specific year over year member connections, big events, but if you do.
We really don't. We have things that are more popular than others. Like Restaurant Week is always always seems to get a lot of people out. You can always count on a happy hour or brunch. And then I guess book club would probably be the only reoccurring one for sure.
Got it. Okay, thank you guys for that. Another burning question is, as leaders, how many hours a month are you dedicating to your junior league role? Thank you.
Sure. So I talked a lot about what we're doing with our current provisional class, and that's what a lot of Q1 and Q2 of the league year we work on. But the other kind of focus of the provisional committee is also recruiting the next class. So that is really focused, kicking off in January through May, but even going into the summer. As we know, a lot of people are still coming into Seattle, and because that's kind of a lull time in the league calendar, we this last year continued to recruit. And I think that's something that we will continue to do in the future to onboard members into the group. So I would say, aside from just the steady kind of monthly commitment for leadership, which, I mean, Stephanie can probably speak to how much as an advisor she's spending. I'm not quite sure. As chair or vice chair, I would say Q1 and 2 of the league year, which is really July to December, I would say that it's 20-ish hours a month in getting the curriculum and planning everything for this year's provisional class. But then going into January through May, it's 20, 30 hours a month or more because we're doing the recruiting cycle. And it just depends on what the kind of recruiting and outreach plan is. I know this coming year, we're going to focus on quality over quantity and really putting together some really good touch points with potential members and having kind of just greater opportunity for them to learn about the league in kind of larger group settings versus a kind of one-on-one or even recruiting sessions that only have a handful of people, which took a lot of time because it's, an hour meeting here and here and here with a lot of people. So looking to do a little bit of less coming up in this next year. So we'll see how that works out.
That's a great idea. Hey, Ariana, what about you? Oh, actually, Stephanie, did you have anything that you wanted to add as far as maybe your hourly workload a month?
So from an advisor perspective, I think I'm probably spending 15 to 20 hours a month, just as far as to Knox's point. The first part of the year has been pretty heavy preparing for the retreat. And, as we're getting up to speed as a small committee, I know not as small as nominating, but as a small committee, making sure that we have everything for our member meetings each month. I'd say it's about 15 to 20 hours a month, fielding emails, reaching out to my provisionals, just making sure that they're, feeling the junior league love and helping Knox, by procuring the items for our retreat, which took a lot of time. Because I don't know how to do that kind of stuff, but I learned it in junior league.
I was going to say, there might be a committee for you. Careful what you admit here. We are recording this. Okay, Ariana, how about you? What is your monthly time commitment?
Yeah, this was the trickiest question for me. So I'll give my answer, but I'd also love Sarah to popcorn in and kind of give her feedback, because I was vice chair last year and moved into chair, and she was chair and has now moved into manager. So I think we both probably have some good perspective on this.
And by the way, can I just say thank you guys for that type of succession planning is exactly what we need as a league, and you guys displayed it beautifully. So thank you.
it was very helpful to us too, I think. So
100%.
mutually beneficial.
Good.
We have kind of told committee members that our expectation from them is around 8 to 10 hours a month, which includes meetings, plannings for any trainings that they're hosting, and attending trainings. It is definitely significantly more for leaders. I think 20 minimum is kind of what I would say per month. But when we get towards planning for Skills Month, which is a really heavy, we start off really strong. The beginning of the year, we have a lot of work to do to get ready for Skills Month. So that is a really busy time. And I think probably like closer to 30 or 40 is being clocked around then. Also probably leading up into training month. And again, when we just have these like concentrated amounts of trainings that need to be planned and on the calendar. So it's manageable, but it's also like a significant time commitment that I think has surprised leaders in the past.
Yes. Well, and it's good to be honest about that. I appreciate that. Sarah, do you have
Yeah.
anything to add?
So I did the math on this because it was also
Okay,
a toughest
perfect.
question. And I was like, I track my hours. So like,
Yeah.
let's just see where are we at. I am at 23 and a half on average per month.
Yeah.
But I would definitely support Ariana's sentiment where that doesn't mean that every month is exactly 23 and a half hours, or that there have not been weeks that have been 10 or 12-hour weeks because of just things that had to get done or different events and meetings that all fell during the same week. So I think, you know, definitely it will ebb and flow. But that is the exact average for what it has come to for the first 6 months of the league year. And that feels about right. I also tried to look at it from like a weekly perspective. And typically I will have at least one meeting, you know, spend some time on emails, planning events, getting back to people. And then you usually say there's like one event. So about 5 hours a week is pretty average for what you could expect.
Great, thank you. And Lisa, how about your time commitment?
Sure. I feel bad coming in last because I would say that Member Connections, since the majority of it is the committee members planning the events, I mostly am there to like set up our monthly meetings, check in with everyone. One thing I didn't expect coming into leadership is normally I'm like the whichever you think is better sort of person, but I realized that people were coming to me and asking for actual like, what do you think? And so actually having to have an opinion was something new that I learned. But I would probably say like maybe 10 to 15 a month. And it's mostly just organizing everyone and making sure that everyone is still knows what's going on and things like that. They do most of the work.
Awesome. They'll be great junior leaguers because of it. Okay, so let's see, where are we? Let's do okay, can we have each of you give some examples of attributes that would be something that would help somebody coming into your position? And then also what sort of attributes or skill sets can they expect to gain from being in a leadership position in your committee? Nak, how about you?
I think organization is a huge part of provisional committee. I think especially just right at the beginning, this year was kind of a unique year because we didn't have a membership manager, but even so, management and the presidents kind of leave it to the provisional committee to kind of look at the provisional course and what they need to kind of pass along and how they want to format it for the class. So I would say just being able to have a lot of knowledge on how the league runs, how the board and management council and kind of having a good grasp of how each of those entities works, and then really organizing the provisional course and what the monthly kind of curriculum will be. A skill that I am not great at, but something that I am Junior League has kind of pushed me into working on more is around recruitment and being able to present. And I kind of call it being a salesperson and really selling the Junior League to prospective members. So I think that that's a skill that is helpful for somebody to have in being good at recruitment, but it is definitely a skill that you will learn in the role as well, because you're just doing a lot of it and being able to be that voice and always using your elevator pitch to promote the junior league. I think those are kind of the biggest kind of attributes, is just being organized and just being outgoing and warm and friendly, and really making sure that our provisionals are being welcomed into the league, and then also to the provisional advisors, really supporting them in their role and making sure that they have what they need to also support our new members.
It's wonderful. We do hear an organized person a lot. That is very important if you're going to be leading people. Okay, Ariana.
Yeah, three things kind of came to mind for me. Again, organization. I'll agree with Knock there.
Yep.
Time management, and then also people management. And I think that the third one is one that I've really been challenged to have to learn, especially when you're leading a committee that's as large as ours, where there's a number of events that have to be planned and a lot of moving pieces. You can't do it all yourself. And even as a leadership team, you can't do it all yourself. So knowing how to delegate and how to, keep an eye on what's happening, but also not be too in the weeds and let people take some ownership to do things their way and feel empowered to do that is something I'm continuing to learn. I think something that you will have to learn in this role. So something that the role will hone in you if you don't already have it. But those are the three big ones that come for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. And Lisa, I have an idea of something you might say, but what are some attributes you should have and that you might gain by being in Member Connection?
So I'll 3 times the organization for sure. People management, knowing it's hard to, this is the first leadership role I've had. It's hard not feeling like you have to accommodate everybody. I'm like, well, wait, this person can meet on this day, this one. It's so just kind of like being able to, I guess, delegates the word to you, but also having that kind of leadership confidence to be like, this is what we're doing and this is the right way, right way to go. I struggle a little bit more with that. And then I think just having kind of a pulse on what league members are looking for and being able to say, well, I don't know, we could try that event, but why don't you maybe like change up this bit a little bit? And I think you might get more people involved, that sort of thing. So just being able to, I guess, kind of parse through the ideas and kind of chime in on the ones that you think might be the most successful.
I think that's
a
great.
Said?
Yeah. Well, I thought you were also going to say, like, being a fun person that wants to hang out with people also, but organized is definitely what I thought. But I think that's a great thing to point out, that a skill that you've been honing is how to actually help other people come to the right decision.
Yes.
And you do have all the knowledge for it, and then now you can just say, no, I do know this. That's really that's really, really cool. I love that. Okay, so this one's a little bit meatier for everybody, and then we're going to talk to our manager on staff here. So tell me about the process of you get the call, you're awarded chair, and now what happens? What is the ramp up like? How do you know what you're supposed to do? What day you're supposed to show up? What happens after you find out that you're the chair?
I think similar to Ariana and Sarah, who had that succession from last year, I also kind of had a little bit of that because I served as provisional vice chair last year, and then am now provisional chair. I didn't know I wanted to be a leader necessarily, or it was something that was in the back of my mind, like, oh, maybe I should get involved in the league, or maybe I'm okay doing the status quo. So I actually applied for leadership late. It wasn't until nominating came out and said, we really need people to come out of the woodwork. And I was like, fine, I will do it. And so it was just a great conversation that I had with nominating. Both years I did it. It was with Kimberly French, was a member of nominating at the time. And it was really just talking to her about what I do in my day job, what my junior league experience has been, what I was interested in doing and learning. And she was the one that said, you know, I think that this would be a good fit for you. So it wasn't necessarily me saying, oh, I might be interested in doing XYZ in the league, that I really am into advocacy or I'm really into community impact or anything. She kind of was like, hey, it looks like your skills align very well with membership. And I think she did a really good job in placing me in that role. And so being provisional vice chair last year and then answering the call when they again needed leaders this last year, it was easy to fall into the provisional chair role because I had seen kind of a cycle of it and been a member of the team. So it was easy. I still talk to last year's provisional chair, Mary Jo, about once a month, just checking in and being able to connect with her on, you know, anything that I could improve on and any ideas that she would have. So it's kind of a continual kind of handoff as the year kind of goes on, which I feel very lucky to be able to have that. But I also am working on documentation so that there's actual stuff that I can hand off to the next kind of group. I feel like that's something that has been lacking or is just in a lot of different places and a lot of Google Drives. So being able to centralize that information will be really great for future leaders.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Okay, Ariana, what about you? What's the ramp up? I mean, you guys have described it a little bit, but tell me about exactly how it happens. You get the call and then what happened to you?
Yeah, so I think training is probably really uniquely situated to do well with that kind of like step up progression of leaders. And I think that has served both Sarah and I. For me, you know, I got the call my first year, and then there was kind of a waiting period while they placed all of the leaders, you know, around me, my other vice chair and also the chair and I think manager at the time too. So I think there is a bit of a waiting period as you make sure that all of those places get filled so that you can start working as a team. And I think the really big kickoff for us was the leadership retreat. And then from there, sort of getting the committee organized. If I were to do it again, I would probably really get that committee organized sooner. We had kind of a series of like different family emergencies and things that kept that from happening, but it's definitely a committee that benefits from strong organization from the start so that we can go into that August deliverable of Skills Month with a lot of those systems in place, good communication to the committee, and having ideally a couple of meetings under our belt. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement with that process that Sarah and I will be working on as we figure out how to best onboard people for next year. But just making sure that whoever decides to take on the role has some availability in the summer, I think is really important. If you're someone who likes summers and goes off the grid and you need that time to yourself, it would be a tricky thing to start. But I do think it makes it a lot easier when you're able to kind of experience it as a VC and then into a chair position and then up to manager.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Lisa, how about you? What was your ramp up like?
My ramp up, let's see. So I had been on the committee for 2 years prior as a member. And so I kind of had a general idea of what went on. And when I filled out my leadership form, I said, I'll only consider it if the previous chair doesn't want to do it anymore. And so they assured me that when they called me, that they're like, nope, she's out for the next year. So so I was okay with that then. And it was more meeting with her to kind of get an idea of what she had been doing organization wise. And then I agree with the whole summer ramp up thing. I feel like maybe a lot of my committee members didn't necessarily know that we might be starting earlier, which I feel like when I'd been on the committee as well, the first year I didn't know either. And so maybe that's something that we can get out there ahead of time, that like even as committee members, we'll probably start planning like late summer. Because we really didn't get things going, I would say, until September, because everyone's like traveling, all of that stuff. So I would say probably the ramp up was just figuring out when we could have meetings, when people were available, how we were going to organize all of our work. The previous chairs had used a similar PowerPoint. I went a little different and used Trello. I don't know which has been more successful or not. Maybe it's better to go back to the PowerPoint. We'll see. But yeah, I still even feel, even though we're December, that we're still even ramping up, even though we've been like halfway through the year. So maybe it's a continuous process.
Yeah, continual ramping. Okay, Stephanie, as an advisor, what is your kind of beginning of your year look like?
I mean, it's kind of as everybody's described it. You know, I got a wonderful call from nominating, offering me this fabulous position. And then it was waiting for all of the other advisors to be placed and reaching out to the chair to make sure I didn't miss anything because it was summer. And we really hit the ground running, I want to say in like early to mid-June, as far as getting planning meetings together in order to try and, because you want to set up the retreat early enough in the summer so that the provisionals have some basic knowledge of who everybody is before the September GMM. You know, in all of my years in leadership in the league, it is definitely a misnomer among members. The league year goes from June 1 to May 31st. And for a lot of members, which is totally fine, September 1st is really when a lot of committee work starts. But the reality is, in order to be successful for the year, as everybody has said on the call, you really need to at least be available for one meeting over the summer and be aware of your emails. So I think that I wasn't surprised by the fact that we started so early. I know that it's just something to make members aware of as they step into leadership. So as youth provisionals, you know, step into leadership roles in the future. I will add, I love the stair step. I mean, this isn't really related to my year question, but I love the stair step. I've been a member of the Junior League for 15 years, and I have served 2 years on every committee that I've been placed on, be it, you know, 2 years on the board, 2 years on nominating, 2 years on the community committees that we don't have anymore. And I feel that it's been the most valuable to spend kind of a year learning and then a year doing or a year leading. So going from that member to vice chair role or vice chair to chair role, I think is really beneficial. And I know there's been talk about requiring 2-year placements on like a rotational basis, but that probably won't ever happen. But I have found it most valuable because when you jump from committee to committee or leadership to leadership, yes, being a chair is pretty much the same across every committee, right? You've got to plan your meetings and plan events and all that kind of stuff, but there's nuances to each committee that you really only know by having sat on that committee in either a vice chair role or as a member of it. So that was just something I was going to add in with one of those earlier questions.
I'm so glad you did, because I'm just calling it a really hard nudge from nominating to do 2 years. Not a requirement, but boy, we would really, really appreciate it.
I wanted to jump on too before we move on.
Please, yes, and I have a couple more things for you, Sarah, too.
Yeah,
thank you.
One, absolutely, obviously have done that 2-year climb. So totally support it. As Ariana has mentioned a few times, like we found it so successful to have that. So highly encouraged. But do you want to also acknowledge that we have 2 provisionals on the line? So I also want to share, Ariana and I were both our first year actives. We took on those leadership roles. So I just wanted to kind of share that perspective that there were plenty of things that were a little scary and frightening. And of course, if I had 1 year under my belt, I could do it better again. But I said the same, like I'm going to say the same thing every year. So hindsight is always 2020. So I did just want to share, like we've also been very successful as leaders, having gone straight into leadership after kind of that provisional experience. So if that is obviously, I assume that is something of interest to you because you're here tonight. I don't want that kind of, you know, our unilateral acknowledgement that like, oh yeah, having that experience is great. You can start getting it from the get-go if that is something that you are interested in. So don't let that hold you back if there's something you're interested in. And I think if you do have maybe a skill set based on, for me, for example, I had been really wanting to get more people management opportunities in my career, and I didn't see the ability to do that in the next like 1 to 2 years at the time. And so, of course, that was something I wanted to deal with, but that's why I wanted to go kind of straight into leadership in the junior league, because it was that skill that I was going to be able to build. So I just, again, wanted to kind of share that perspective that there's a lot of, and feel free to reach out to have some one-on-one conversations if there's specific roles that you're interested in, because I would definitely be happy to share like maybe which ones are best if you are taking on a first year leadership role. I will be totally vocally self-critical. Training chair was a big one, but I did it. So I think there's some that definitely can help you to grow, and you can get involved in very early in your league career.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for pointing that out. And also thank you guys for just jumping in. I had forgotten that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then Sarah, lastly, I did just want to, you kind of covered this a bit, just basically you guys did a great job about the manager role versus the chair role, but is there anything else you want to add about just kind of what, maybe a day in the life of manager versus the chair, perhaps?
Yeah. And so I definitely can speak to both. But I kind of like to explain the hierarchy a little bit, because this is one of those things that, it took me a little while to, I feel like, fully understand and kind of see the differences. So starting with the board. So we do have split governance. So we have a board, and we also have a management council. And so our board is really the strategic guidance. They're there to set the strategy and then make sure that we have everything we need in order for that strategy to roll out, be in place, be successful. The role of the managers, so myself and the rest of the managers on management council, we're really there to be kind of the operational executors. So we take the strategy, kind of digest that and turn it into a work plan, which is what we think the committee should do in order to kind of execute and achieve each of those goals. But it's not prescriptive. We're not there to say like, okay, you have to do exactly these things in exactly this order. We're there to say the strategy says we have to achieve these 5 things. Here's how that could break down and what we kind of the goals that we want to set within that broader strategy. And then the role of the chair and the vice chairs is really to guide the committee to plan out the details of those different pieces that the manager said, hey, here's what we need to kind of make sure we execute on so that the strategy is complete. And so I kind of just set that a little like kind of the tiers. And then of course, committee members are there to help execute. So that's kind of how it breaks down. And so with that, I think, as a manager, a day in the life, or maybe like a week in the life, is really, you do have a few more meetings than you might have that I did as a chair. As a chair, I was meeting with the committee, and then I was meeting kind of with the wing, with my manager, with my other chairs. But that's kind of where I sat. As a manager, I management council meetings. I still have all those other meetings that I had before, maybe not quite as hands-on within the committee, but I also have meetings with other committees to say, hey, what do you need? What do we need to be working on together? I might talk to the board a little bit more to understand, hey, here's what we wanted to execute, but just based on the bandwidth that we have, we might have to pivot or we might have to change this. And so it's a little bit more of that, I guess, kind of managing up and then also kind of helping to communicate across than I personally experienced in the chair role. And so a lot of kind of networking, relationship building, and continued kind of deployment of resources.
That's an excellent way to describe that. Thank you for that so much. Well, that concludes our formal questions part. So if Elizabeth or Tawana have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can ask us now, or if you think of something after, you can contact any of us. You can contact nominating specifically, and then if there's anybody that you want to that we can help facilitate another meeting with you guys or some other questions, we'll be happy to do any of that, as well as all of you chairs and vice chairs and managers on here. We're also here for you. So does anyone have anything they want to add before we finish the call?
I have a quick question for everybody.
Please.
If there was one thing you could have known in advance about doing your job, what would it be?
Great question.
Lisa,
Anybody want to jump in?
So you popped off, but I'm also happy to kick it off. I'll start. I think, and it's been brought up, but the one thing that I kind of wish I would have known is to start earlier. Which we did kind of our second year, but our first year, it took a little bit of, we were learning too. So had I been able, and if I went back to start all over, it would be actually make sure you plan on starting the work in June.
That's
I would
great.
kind of piggyback on that, not just the starting over or starting early in the year leadership year, but start early in your junior league career. I did my 5 active years as just a regular member on committees, and it wasn't until recently that I started doing leadership, and these have been the best years that I've had in the junior league. Just feeling that what I'm contributing to the league and kind of what the league does in the greater community has been just incredible. So I love that, Tawana and Elizabeth, that you're both provisionals and on this call, and very much encourage you to apply for leadership because it has definitely made my experience. And that you're not going into it blind. I feel like these women are the most supportive folks that you'll ever meet, that you always have these cheerleaders behind you, and when you're having a bad day or you're having trouble with anything, that they're just there to support you. It might sound scary, like, oh my gosh, 20 or 30 hours a month, but there is a method to the madness. There's a work plan, and there's folks there that are kind of working alongside you. So you're set up for success. You're not set up for failure, that there are these regular meetings and checkpoints and work plans that you're doing so that you can kind of move the needle forward.
I just reiterate kind of what Sarah said. I think if I knew as a vice chair what I know now, I would plan for really kicking things off in June and really starting that strong, just to save a lot of feeling like you're catching up later on. And then the other thing I would offer, because I think Sarah made a really good point, we've all been like really open about some of the struggles and some of the things we do differently, but Sarah and I did jump in our first active year. And I don't regret doing that. I would do that again, despite the fact that there was a big learning curve for both of us. And I think one thing that was really nice for me, I was given advice from, I think it was Kimberly French. And she was like, you should attend a board meeting, go attend a management council meeting. You can audit these. And I did. I went to one of each, and it was a great way of kind of understanding, like at a higher level, what the league is doing that like you don't maybe get just through the newsletters, and also then what each committee is kind of doing. And I wasn't like given an option to audit a committee meeting, but I would say for training, at least, if that's something you're ever interested in trying, you are more than welcome to come and sit in a committee meeting and see what that looks like see what that structure is and whether or not the work sounds interesting to you. That is something I certainly would be very open to. And I imagine there are probably other committee leaders that would be open to that as well for anyone considering leadership. So don't feel like you can't ask for additional information or like an additional sneak peek, and that can be a one-on-one meeting, but it can also be like formally asking if you can sit and see what the work actually looks like.
Great idea.
And I would agree with all of that. And just add, this is somewhat similar, but I kind of wish I'd had more of like a strategic / leadership point of view when I first started out. So in the beginning, I was very much, it was kind of like lead by committee sort of thing. So who wants to do this? Who wants to do that sort of thing, which is good. But I think that maybe I could have and I'm not a super structured person to begin with. So maybe have like integrated a little bit more structure, organization in the beginning than I did. If I could start all over again. Also, Sarah, your dogs are so cute.
I keep watching them walking around.
Yeah, me too.
I don't make it
Bonus
through a
committee
meeting
members.
without the dogs. Yeah, getting involved without them.
Awesome.
The only other thing that I would add that is something that I think a lot of new leaders don't necessarily, I don't want to say act on, but we're 100-year-old league. With the exception of the one-off times that we add new committees, the previous chair, vice chair, any previous committee member is there as a resource for you. If you're, not quite sure how to go about planning an agenda, or thinking of good training ideas, or okay, maybe brunch has been overdone. What are some other things that you found successful in previous years? Now that our Member Essentials calendar has changed from Digital Cheetah, I don't know that we can access past historic events, but there's a wealth of knowledge within the women in the league. And so, I mean, I'm a huge fan of copy paste rather than starting from scratch. And I think that in some cases, I've seen chairs fall over the years trying to start something new from scratch. And there's nothing wrong with taking a successful event or a successful training or a speaker that everybody loved and doing it again, because there's a number of new members that join every year, or new members that transfer leagues. And so it's not the same training or the same event or the same community service shift, but it's with an established space, or an established speaker, or an established venue. And I think that the member resource is really something not to lose sight of when you're stepping into a leadership role. Because the transition docs, to Knox Point, are everywhere, and they should all be in one location, and there should be a nice binder that's handed over for those of us that are accountants and like that kind of stuff. But the people remain. And so even if you can't find that document, you can talk to somebody who can probably get you 80% of the way there.
Thank you so much for that question, Tawana. That was good. That gave us.
Thank you for the answers. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else? No? Well, thank you all for joining so much. Thank you for taking the time, to the panel. Thank you, you two amazing provisionals, for taking the time to join us. And we look forward to reading your application pretty soon. The applications will be live January 12th, I believe. So keep an eye out, and we'll be pushing them on you. So thank you, everyone, very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye. Michelle, can you stay on 1 second? Okay. How do I end the recording? Oh, stop. Boop. Stop iCloud recordings after stopping.